fruits, nuts, and seeds.
Jaffe, thank you for teaching us to be healthy.
The energy that I feel with these meals.
Jaffe, that was really yummy.
Like a kid with new toys. Health is my greatest joy. Come and see, come and be with our host Jaffe.
Hello and welcome to Food with Life. I am your host Jaffe, and we're here at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles, California, with a special guest. He's a medical doctor, a spiritual healer, and knows a lot about food and diet and health. Welcome. Nice to have you, Dr. Ibraham Jaffe.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be with you today.
Delighted to have you.
Thank you.
You know, what fascinated me is that you are both a wonderful spirit and a wonderful healer, and most important, that you have the wisdom that a doctor has, you know. So let's talk a bit about the spiritual healing and its effect on sickness and disease.
Well, you know, in medicine, right, what do? Somebody gets sick, they have cancer,
Yes.
and we give them, what, chemo, radiation.
Right.
But if you really do the studies, the average length of life extension with chemo is 9 months. And if you realize that of that, 4 months of it, you're losing your hair, you're vomiting, you feel bad, you actually only get 4 or 5 months of life, generally. I mean, some people who make it, but the average 4 or 5 months of good extension before you die.
Right.
So, you know, if you really think about it, in many cases, you know, is it worth going to even do any of that? It's
Yes.
really a question, you know, because if your last, my first wife died of stomach cancer. This was many years ago, and we were hiking in the Grand Canyon,
Yes.
and all of a sudden she started throwing up blood, and we flew her out by helicopter, and it turned out she had invasive stomach cancer,
Oh boy.
and
So there were no signs of this.
absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Stomach is a very silent cancer.
Ah.
And I mean, the truth of the matter was, she had told me 2 years before that, one day we were talking, and she said, you know, I love you, but I want you to know I'm finished. I said, what do you mean finished? She said, I'm complete. I've lived my life. I'm happy. I've done everything I want. The only reason I stay is because the kids are little and because you need me. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to go.
Wow. Was she happy?
She was happy, but it was finished for her. She had, you know, she was she'd done what, I mean, I think she was happy, but she'd done what she'd wanted. You know, we had a very full life. We swum with the sharks and climbed at the mountains in Afghanistan, and
Right.
you know, done everything that she wanted to do. So she felt complete. And then the cancer came, and she had 3 weeks to live. And the doctors decided to do a surgery on her. And so the last 3 weeks of her life, she only had a week where she wasn't in agonizing pain from the surgery. You see, and this is the story with medicine, is often in trying to help, we actually really make problems.
Yeah, yeah. So they couldn't give her all these. If they gave her painkillers and all this, that would just
That's what
totally
happened.
knock her out.
She was on morphine, and you know, she was in that state of, you know, where you're kind of drugged out with the
Yeah.
morphine, and you can't really communicate, and
Why be alive?
exactly.
You know?
And then the last week of your life, you're on you know what I mean? You're not even present.
Yeah.
So it was really at that level, from that perspective, it was not a good thing.
Yeah. So you're a spiritual healer. So how could spiritual healing play a role in the person who has sickness and disease, and then in people who are happy and healthy?
Yeah. Well, spiritual healing is very simple teaching. And I can give you a story which will really describe it. But a friend of mine was a Nazi concentration camp survivor. And he wasn't Auschwitz, but he was one of the big camps. And he was Orthodox Jewish man. And during the camp, he lost all connection to God. How could God let the Germans do this to the Jews. There can't be a God.
Yes.
And he lost it. He lost his love. So now, many years later, this is, maybe 10, 15 years ago, he developed a large melanoma, which is a very, very aggressive. It's the most aggressive tumor there is on his face. And they gave him a very short time to live. And he was doing the energy work, that people do today, where they get to the issues, what are you angry about, work with the emotions. And the tumor would shift. Every time he'd heal something, the tumor would change. So that the borders changed, but it didn't go away. One day, he discovered his rage at God. And he healed the rage at God. And he said, I sobbed for 2 or 3 days nonstop, just so much pain about my loss of connection to God and my anger at God. At the end of the 2 or 3 days, and he had been working on the issues a long time already, he has a dream in the night, and in the night, an angel comes in the dream, reaches into his face, pulls out the tumor, he looks at it, the angel takes it away, and he wakes up.
Hold it there. We'll take a break. I want to hear more
Okay.
after this, okay?
Okay.
I am your host, Chapati, with our wonderful guest, Dr.Ibraham Jaffe. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This is Food with Life. Welcome back to Food with Life. I'm your host, Chapati, with our wonderful guest at the Conscious Life Expo, Dr. Ibraham Jaffe.
Thank you.
You were telling me about this. The angel took this tumor away, and then what happened?
Well, he woke up and he goes to the bathroom and he looks in the mirror in the bathroom, and overnight the whole tumor was gone.
Right.
It completely healed. And he went out, this was in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis area, he went out and he began to examine miraculous healings. He found 50 recorded healings in the Twin Cities. And in every single case, what they found was, number one, the person worked on their issues. Number two, they returned to God. And if those two pieces were together, they had the miracles. And today, when I look at spiritual healing is working on your deep issues. It's returning your spirit back to God. And the third piece, which I've added, is what you're also interested in, which is the food.
Yes.
Because just good food can heal cancer as well.
Right.
But if you take all three together, you have a magnificent program.
Wow. Yeah. I know sometimes when you read about things in the paper about cancer, it's such a big issue. The most common illness, people talk about cancer and dying. And it's not the traditional medical doctors, most of them just don't even think about alternative ways.
No.
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 I know alkalinity and acidity is a major emphasis. I have that on our website about beating cancer.
Yes.
Along with other therapies.
Yeah.
And it just astounds me. And maybe as a doctor, you can shed some light on the whole thing about dealing with cancer, but with illness and how alternative medicine, especially dealing with beings of higher light,
Yes.
spirituality,
Yes.
can help us.
Well, I'm at the point where it's a smorgasbord.
Right.
There are times, if I have a broken arm, I want to go see a medical doctor.
Right.
If I have a dissecting aortic aneurysm,
Right.
you can give me all the homeopathic in the world you want,
Right.
it's not going to change it.
Right.
That's been my experience.
Right.
But take me to cardiac surgery, and I'm going to live.
Right.
So I have a lot of respect for a lot of aspects of medicine. But, for chronic disease and for, diseases that are not like acute emergencies, traditional medicine doesn't understand why people get sick.
Right.
And are not using these, food and herbs and understanding the emotions and psychology
Right,
and the spirit.
right.
They were missing everything.
Right.
And it has to be a universal approach.
Right.
Because we're not just doing it, so doctors can help the patient. This is about the person living.
Right.
It's
right.
not, we don't have a right to say that only our way is right.
Right.
It's about they have to live.
Right.
And are we really serving them?
Exactly. And I know most medicines I read, are just it's just symptomatic. I don't know of medicines that are really, you know this, but if you know this, that what medicines are really cure the person in a healthy way without leaving some scar on the physiology.
Well, allopathic medicines don't really cure anything. They're not meant to be cures. All they really do is stop the symptoms.
Right.
And that's the problem with allopathic is it's not really getting to the problem. So you can, the value if you're sick and you're cold and you stop the cough and you stop the runny nose, you feel better and your body will respond, hopefully.
Right.
And that's good.
Right.
But you're not, why did you get the cold?
Right.
What's really going on? Maybe you're really grieving.
Right.
Most people who get colds have grief issues.
Right.
And are they really addressing that grief? Probably not.
Yeah. It's interesting because I know I've been working and talking with people at the University of Southern California at the Genetic School of Medicine. We're talking with them, and I go every month or so to a class they have there on mindfulness.
Beautiful.
And they're realizing, they're starting to touch on the spirituality of medicine.
Beautiful.
And the true, so to speak, the Hippocrates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he was the gem of food as medicine.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering though about the sharing with us some of your spiritual knowledge and how it affects our healing.
Well, I mean, the master key. There is a super master key of all, and people have issues with it because they run into religious ideologies, which I'll stay out of. But the truth of the matter is, if I'm going to work on cancer, and I don't have the presence of God in the equation,
forget it.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom
divinity.
line. It's the divinity.
I want to talk about it no more in a second, okay?
Okay.
So stay with us.
Thank you.
I am your host, Jaffe, with our special guest, Dr.Ibraham Jaffe. This is Food with Life. We're at the Conscious Life Expo. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Food with Life. I am your host, Jaffe, at the Conscious Life Expo with our wonderful guest, Dr. Ibraham Jaffe. So you were touching on the idea of spirituality and divinity and the importance in medicine.
Yeah. This is every tradition, allopathic, homeopathic, Ayurvedic, has its approach to healing.
Yes.
But if you don't have that divine presence there, it's like, I don't know, it's like you don't have any gasoline in your tank.
You're running on empty.
You're running on empty and you're trying to get your car to move.
Right.
And that it's the divine force. I know for me, if I'm working with cancer, without the presence of divine, the results are very erratic and I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Right.
But when I'm with that presence and I'm working with cancer, we've had success after success with stage 4 terminals, people end stage that have turned around with this work.
Right.
So, and it really, the simplest answer is if God chooses to give the healing, nothing can stop it. So at this point, the master key is really how do we really get God to choose to give us the healing.
Yes.
And that's the secret.
Don't you think maybe an oncologist should have some education in this? They're supposedly the doctors of cancer.
Yes. What I have found is interesting. I've worked with some doctors with MD Anderson down in Houston, which are one of the best cancer clinics in the nation. They're actually very open. I think we're at a time when the physicians are trying to learn now.
Yes.
And we actually need to educate like everything.
Right.
We didn't get that education in medical school.
Yeah. So what could you recommend for schools that are teaching about cancer care?
Well, like in our, we have the University of Spiritual Healing and Sufism. We train people in spiritual healing.
Right.
This work is still new. It's just people just realizing it. I think maybe, hopefully I'll write something that will come out and help. But really we need all physicians, and particularly cancer physicians, oncologists, to be doing this.
Are there many holistic
Not
oncologists?
many. I know a handful in the United States. There's a very good one in New York, a
Yeah.
friend of mine, but most of the people aren't doing it.
And then the clouds.
Yeah, they don't know.
It-
And what is chemo? Chemotherapy is poison. You're
Yeah.
poisoning the person.
I know.
It just poisons the cancer faster.
But you think about it, I know people who have had cancer, and there's not an alternative.
No.
You know, they can meditate and all this, but still,
Yeah.
it's so drastic, but what is the choice? You
Yeah.
know?
And we're also programmed. I mean, I know, you're taught, chemo is the only way.
Right.
And it's very strong. It's hard to get out of your mind.
Right, right.
And I have people come to me all the time. Well,
Right.
Dr. Ibraham, should I not do the chemo?
Right.
And it's very hard to say no to that. As a medical doctor, I really can't legally, first of all. And then secondly, the belief systems.
Right.
So you have to work, often I have to work around that. Okay, do the chemo, but we'll try to, we know we're going to wipe out your immune system and we'll try to rebuild it.
Right, right.
But it's hard.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
from what I can see is, of course you have to perhaps, at some point you need to go to the chemo, but without a backbone of divinity,
Yeah.
without knowing the big picture, some people with cancer, they think, like I have a sister who had a lump somewhere, and she went to to a surgeon to look at it, and she immediately thought she was going to die. Turns out it was benign and there was no problems. So it's a scary situation. You have cancer and don't know what to do, where to turn, and I think it's important for a spiritual healer,
Yes.
as you, to realize and to share with people that you have to be in touch with divinity and your heart.
That's the most important. No matter, even if you do the chemo or not the chemo. I had one lady, she developed a stage 3.
Yeah.
Which means she had 2 tumors in the breast
Right,
that
right.
infiltrated into the bone.
Right.
And so it was, it's when you see a tumor, holding onto that bone and it's
Yes.
in there, it's actually pretty scary. And it's really, it has that kind of feeling, kind of like, oh my God, this is really bad.
Yeah.
So she began working on herself. But what she did, which was really different, was she actually, I call it prostrated to God. She bowed in a way. She said, "My Lord, I can't heal this without your help." And I know all the patients I work with, I've never seen anybody bow as deeply as her.
Could you tell me more about her in a second?
Sure.
I want to get into this, okay?
Sure.
We need to take a break.
Okay.
I am your host, Chapati, with our wonderful special guest, Dr. Ibraham Jaffe. We'll be right back. Stay with us. This is Foods with Life. Welcome back to Food with Life. I am your host, Chapati, with our special guest, Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe, who's a wonderful medical doctor. And you were talking a bit about this lady with this cancer, and what did you do?
Well, what she did, which I've worked with cancer so many times, but she did something I never saw anybody else do. She bowed. When I say bowed, in her, not her physically bowed, but in her spirit, she said, "My Lord, I can't do it without you." I mean,
She brought in this divinity.
so deeply. I mean, she was going to bankruptcy. She was in a lot of trouble, so she had nothing to turn to except God.
Right.
And she did, and she bowed, and she said, "I need you, I need you, I need you." This was over a period of maybe 3 weeks. And at the end of 3 weeks, she said she had this experience, I think it was 3 weeks, where the white light of God came in and just exploded the tumor. And she said, "I knew it was gone."
Wow.
And I went a week. This was only like 4 or 5 weeks now. 4 or 5 weeks later, a week and a half later, 2 weeks later, she goes to the surgeon, the oncologist.
He could not believe it.
He didn't believe it, so they did a bilateral mastectomy. They took off both breasts, sent it to pathology. The tumor was completely gone, and it was this white light that exploded. And the tumor disappeared in a matter of, who knows, days, seconds, I don't know. It was gone immediately. So this is the beauty of spiritual healing. You take this white light, you add it with good nutrition diet that builds the body,
Right.
you work on your emotions, get rid of the pain that you're in for whatever reason.
Yes.
You know what? Most people heal.
Wow. So there's nothing
Astaghfirullah.
nothing to compare to it, to the divinity.
Divinity, nothing.
No traditional medicine has any concept.
No.
Hopefully they're learning. But you touched on the thing about diet, a
Yes.
little bit about food. To me, that's as primary almost as the divinity.
Yes.
Both almost and hand in hand,
Yeah.
Food is our God. in a
Yes.
way,
Yeah.
And God is our food.
Exactly. Food is key. I mean, yeah.
So tell me about food. What do you recommend for people who maybe are not healthy or people who are healthy?
I'm in I have a very simple diet for people, which is, eat basically raw, eat foods, nuts and grains and
High energy foods.
high energy foods. Stay away from all sugars, stay away from coffee, things like that. Alcohol, obviously, cigarettes, get rid of all the antiperspirants, get rid of all the stuff you put on your body that your body don't want.
So much of that, lotions and skin creams and all of it. I read labels, and most of the times I read labels, I'd say about 70% of the labels I read in different stores are additives we do not want or do not need.
Exactly.
And
then you even put it on your skin and you don't realize how fast, instantaneously that skin absorbs it and it's in your toe. I mean,
right. And in your blood.
In your blood. It goes in the blood and through your whole system in a flash.
Right.
And then you think, I just put a little skin lotion on. You didn't. You actually poisoned your whole body.
Exactly.
In 1 second.
Right. Yeah, moisturizer, skin, I use this moisturizer and I get it always from my health place, and I always read the label and check into the ingredients, you know? Because without reading that label, without knowing, you're basically, you don't know.
Yeah.
You could be putting cancer into your body. You don't know.
We are.
I hate to put it that way.
We are putting it in. We are putting it in, and people don't realize that they're poisoning themselves every single day with so much stuff, and we're killing ourselves.
And our food.
And what we eat, the nitrates, and all the stuff we're putting in our body, the stuff in the metals and the antiperspirants, it is very destructive.
Yeah, I always say we did a show with children called Reading Labels. For kids. We have a kids show called Chapati's Kids Snack Corner.
That's great.
It's all about diet and health for children.
Great.
And I think it's not too different to say diet and health for kids and for adults.
I think the adults we don't even know.
We're kids.
We're kids. Who reads the labels today?
Ultimately, we are children.
We are children.
So it's pivotal to know what we're eating and the importance of being aware of our diet and our lifestyles.
Well, I think a lot of us would turn to Whole Foods. I used to go to Whole Foods. If it's in Whole Foods, it's got to be healthy.
Yeah.
But that's not true either.
Right.
There's a lot in there that's not.
Right. I go to health food stores, good health food stores. I look at the labels. A lot of the labels have stuff in it we'd rather not have, but they're there for marketing and this money dollar and how much,
That's right. And if you really knew what was in there,
right.
Like if you eat hot dogs today, you don't even know what you're getting in there.
So if you could recommend one thing to our wonderful audience, what would you suggest to our beautiful people?
I would say, first of all, really develop your connection to God, whatever your system, your tradition, your religion. And secondly, really eat really good food and really try to guard your body.
And organic food, if you can.
Organic, healthy.
Wonderful to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Dr.Ibraham Jaffe.
Yeah.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
I am your host, Chapati. This is Food with Life. We're at the Conscious Life Expo. Thank you for watching. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.